And I just find comments that supposedly speak to a policy issue, but raise issues apparently of segregation and implied kind of racism on my part to be completely unacceptable. And I noted with interest this morning and profound dismay and regret that when given the chance to take accountability for this, to accept responsibility for this, Olivia Chow said, well, this is just one of my thousands of volunteers, as if the man in question is somebody who kind of wandered into her office to put a few stamps on envelopes. And I'd say that when you are dealing with somebody that I know, and we all know, is someone that is spending a lot of time on her campaign, probably talking to her on almost a daily basis, that has 2 or 3 people professionally employed in his office working on her campaign, that is not leadership, not to accept responsibility for this. You know, you've got a choice here. You can cut Mr. Kinsella and his comments loose and declare them for what they are, which is dirty politics and completely unacceptable, or you can cut him a check. But you can't do both. And so I just really would call on her now, maybe after all the opportunities you all gave her this morning, to accept real responsibility and to really accept responsibility for comments that are totally unacceptable in the politics of 2014 in Toronto or any other time or any other place, to accept that responsibility, and I hope she'll do that.
So you don't think Mr. Kinsella's apology is enough?
Mr. Kinsella has been in touch with me, and I would think if he's sincere about his apology, he would make it public, what he sent me privately just a little while ago. I just saw it very recently. But the real issue here is Ms. Chow and her accountability for somebody very senior in her campaign, a key operative in her campaign, somebody in whose office there are several people employed by her campaign, and she refused this morning, when given several opportunities to do so, to take any real responsibility for this and just kind of sloughed him off as another volunteer among thousands. She implied she'd hardly recognize him if she went in the office. And I think this is ridiculous.
Sorry, let's talk about his apology for a moment. In his official apology that the public has seen, he brings up the Jean Chrétien attack ad and wants to know if you'll apologize for that. You were campaign director back in 1993. That is arguably the dirtiest attack ad we've seen in Canadian politics, and he's linking your name to it in the middle of an election campaign. What do you have to say about that?
Yep.
Are you sorry for that attack ad?
21 years ago, I was the co-chair of the campaign that put that out on television, and I took responsibility then, and I've taken responsibility since, because of course I've been interviewed since that time. And I'm just suggesting today that Olivia Chow should similarly take responsibility for what has been done by a key operative of her campaign.
So you've taken responsibility, but you're not sorry for it?
I took responsibility 21 years ago and several times since for what happened, and I am sorry that it infected the politics of the day. And everybody learns lessons from these things that go on in your life, and that includes me. And I would hope Ms. Chow might take some lessons from a number of experiences that have gone on and accept some responsibility and show some real leadership on this. And as I say, you can cut Mr. Kinsella loose and his comments, or you can cut a check to him. But I don't think you can be doing both.
What was that interaction like with Mr. Kinsella privately?
He just wrote me an email, and so it's, in that sense, it's just an email that he sent, which I haven't even had time to respond to yet. I just got it early this afternoon.
What's it say?
Cut him loose as in fire him?
I beg your pardon?
Cut him loose as in fire him?
Well, obviously, that decision's up to her, what she does with respect to her campaign team. But I think that in this case, she's first got to start by accepting some responsibility and some degree of accountability. And as I say, what I saw this morning on television, and many of you were there, was just her saying, oh, this is just one of thousands of volunteers, and, I can't really accept any responsibility for that. And I think that's very regrettable.
What response will satisfy you, John? Do you want an apology from Olivia? Do you want Lauren fired? Tell us now.
I would like some accountability from her, and to say that this was a senior operative in her campaign, not some person that maybe wandered in off the street a half an hour ago to seal a few envelopes, and that she finds those kinds of comments reprehensible in the context of politics and utterly without any foundation at all when it comes to me personally. Because I have a proud record. I have a proud record of standing up for human rights of all kinds, of fighting against discrimination, of helping in the communities that he was speaking about. As Spider Jones just said, I've been in those communities for years and years and years when I wasn't anywhere near being a political candidate. I was there as a community activist, and I'm proud of that, and I'll continue to do that as mayor and long after I've retired as mayor, because that's who I am.
Mr. Tory, your campaign released a map last week, reportedly of Chow's transit plan, and said Olivia Chow's transit plan avoids Toronto. It had a drawing of the downtown relief line. Do you regret that at all?
No, I don't, because I didn't include in my map any inflammatory language that suggested there was a motive in terms of why, you know, it might have, her plan might have ignored Toronto or not ignored Toronto. I mean, I think the issue here is the use of an incredibly inflammatory word, especially if you look at what's going on in North America right now, especially in Missouri and so on. I just can't imagine what anybody would have been thinking, you know, in using that kind of language to talk about me, first of all, or to talk about anybody in terms of a debate that's supposed to be about public policy. And so that's why I find it so unacceptable, both that he used the language, but even as importantly, the fact that Ms. Chow refuses to take any real responsibility and accountability for it as a leader would do.
Two more
John,
questions.
Sarah